Okay, what is this weapon? Why have I barely ever heard of it? And how the fuck is it actually so good? So the Zapp is a weapon that was kind of shifted in the weapon rebalance. So I can actually show it here that most weapons actually got better with this update where, the ground pounder got a little bit of a damage increase, more almost double. Most weapons went up is what I'm talking about. But the Zapp actually had to go down. This pistol has so much base damage. If you note the snipers on the side here, it actually has more base damage than a lot of them, or almost as much. And it actually had to get nerfed because it was already too powerful. And honestly, the gameplay concurs. It just obliterates enemies. Now, I am running a crit build with this. That's just kind of the base way that I test weapons. And you can see when it does crit, it is just deleting enemies. And it is doing really, really well. What I didn't know about the Zapp was that it actually has a very fast projectile speed. So it's a weapon where it doesn't connect on its target instantly. It has to shoot a projectile that moves through the air. And that moves really, really quickly. But what I didn't know is that it explodes and hits lots of enemies all at once. And the 6th perk I have on this is Affliction. I do believe that's kind of your best option, especially since this is a weapon that's really expensive, 3 energy cells per shot, and it has a big explosion area, kind of a slower fire rate, so you really want those shots to count, and you won't always one-shot. So in my case, it's actually nice that Affliction can kind of chip away at them over time, even if it's doing abysmal damage and was much better when they accidentally nerfed it a long time ago. So if that ever changes in the future, then hooray, Affliction's good again. But the Zapp, on the other hand, is a very tricky weapon because it's not so good that I'm going to start pulling it out in every single mission. It's going to replace my primaries. It does shoot a little too slow for me personally, and I am relying a little too much on the crits for that to happen. However, I was given this copy in Ventures, believe it or not. I got it from a chest or a vending machine or something, and somebody in the stream went ahead and redeemed some points to make me use it, and I was surprised because my copy had fire rate and triple damage, and it was one-shotting a lot of enemies, and I believe I was being carried at the time. I don't know if we were in a 140 zone, but I was underleveled, suffice it to say, and this thing was actually deleting a bunch of enemies. So obviously we'll get into the perks later, but I'm not 100% sold that a crit build might be the way to go, but that's all I'm going to tease on that. As for the actual gameplay of this weapon, we've already been talking about it, but it is an explosive weapon, so you're definitely going to want to be grouping enemies. That's why, I don't know if I've showed it already, but if you've seen me not shooting enemies and trying to run around them in circles, I am trying to get as many targets in one blast radius as possible. Makes it a little boring to watch, but you can understand what I'm doing. So this weapon, believe it or not, is actually really, really good in encampments. And I also want to talk about one more thing, the loadout. So if I haven't showed it on screen already, this is why, but hey, look at me, I remember to use Calamity. This is kind of a common mistake in a lot of my videos where I'll show my loadout, and then I typically prefer, Ranger Deadeye in the lead, or sometimes I'll just use Beetlejuice in the lead. Both of these are very good options. Their damage bonus works out to be essentially identical, but if a weapon has 6 shots or less, Calamity is definitely the chick you want in the lead because I've ran the numbers multiple times. 60% is higher than 50% every single time I try it, and an extra 75% impact isn't so bad either. So given that this is such a clear bonus, the only time I'd ever really consider using an Outlander is for like the abilities. So phase shift is really, really nice to get in and around enemies, especially if you're trying to line them up in a group like this weapon. Phase shift can be kind of nice, but I'd rather just kind of ignore the abilities and focus on my weapon, especially for recording the gameplay. But in general use case, lefty and righty and Warcry is still plenty good, so it kind of depends on what you're looking to do, but Calamity is kind of what I went for here, and that kind of goes into how this loadout is buffing this weapon as far as possible. So long as I'm eating a coconut, I am getting the full benefit of my entire loadout, and it is helping one-shot a lot of enemies, and even against, single target smashers, I don't remember it being very spectacular. I am recording this video like 2 days after the gameplay, by the way, but in my memory, it definitely wants to be hitting as many enemies as possible because, like I said, if you don't crit, you're kind of out of luck. Now, if you are trying to use this weapon, let's talk about the perks for it. I already alluded to it, but I'm not certain that a crit build is the way to go, so let's start with the easy stuff. Energy is probably the best option. We are currently in a winter zone. I didn't really feel like reperking mine to nature, so I just went with energy. It seemed to be the best option. Now, for the 6th perk, you do have other options here. We definitely want to match to the 5th perk. The impact is pretty good, 4,500, especially if you're using Calamity. Your impact will be buffed, so maybe maybe damage to stun, staggered, frozen could be nice, but what I really want to talk about here are the other options. So on crit regaining shields, that's just, I mean, useless. I mean, even if you're using Totally Rockin' Out or any team perk where you're going to have a shield, unlike Blast from the Past, that crit regaining some shield is just not useful. And impact and knockback magnitude I've never had much value in, because if you're trying to knock an enemy around, the only times I've ever been convinced that is actually useful is like late game endurance. And if you're going to be doing that, you've already got weapons like the Dam Buster and the Metal Marauder, etc., the Sod Buster, etc., etc., etc. It's not really what you're using this weapon for. You just want the damage to be as high as possible. That's why I said Affliction is probably the best, because Slowed and Snared does have that extra damage to Slowed and Snared's 5th perk as well. However, that 45% isn't the only thing we're after. You know, that extra Affliction over time allows you to eliminate that enemy, you know, even if you didn't one-shot it the first time around. So obviously, your first shot won't be buffed at all, but your second and third and fourth and so on shots will all have that 45% damage bonus. It's not the greatest thing in the game, but it is certainly our best option here. If you really don't care about that extra damage, because most normal enemies are going to die right away, the fatties and the nurses and the riot shield guys will be trouble, no doubt. If you don't care about any of those enemies, then damage to miss monsters and bosses would be perfectly fine, but I'm really not going to lie to you. This is a fun weapon. This is a weapon you use when you're screwing around or as a secondary. So if you are going to use this weapon as a primary, perhaps you might want to keep something on hand for nurses who might not die fast enough, or keep a second weapon just for the miss monsters and then just leave the damage to Affliction or Slowed and Snared based on whatever 6th perk you have. As for the other perks, Reload is the only one that I can just guarantee you're going to want, because this weapon has a really slow shoot time and a super long reload. Even with a reload perk, I'm waiting 1.9 seconds every time I have to reload. And I only have an 18 mag size, which, well, when you're using 6 ammo at a time, that was a mistake earlier. I probably fixed it in editing, but I do recall myself saying 3. I'm wrong. You actually have 3 shots consuming 6 cells per shot, which is a lot of energy cells. That's why this is a fun weapon, not a serious one. Every 3 shots, you're going to be reloading, so you definitely want a reload perk, or this weapon is going to get very annoying. If you don't care, then damage is your best bet, no doubt. But for the perks, that is where there's kind of some variability. Double damage could be completely fine. I'd encourage you to test it yourself. If you're actually trying to use this weapon and you're actually trying to use it in your missions, then, you know, roll double damage and see if it's one-shotting the normal enemies. If it's not, then perhaps a crit build might be the way to go. Obviously, crit damage is going to be completely fine, but you are going to hate every single time that it doesn't crit. It's also good to note that when you're shooting into a crowd of enemies, every single enemy has its own chance to crit. So every time you shoot into a crowd of like 15 enemies, 5 of them will probably crit and then die off. And then you shoot again, and then like 2 or 3 will probably crit and die off. And if you have to shoot a third time, I'm assuming the only thing remaining is like a miss monster, because this weapon is likely going to obliterate whatever it was. But if you don't want to go the rolling the dice route of using a crit build, then double damage or perhaps even fire rate damage could be a fun way to go, because this thing has a 0.45 fire rate, which means you are going to be shooting every 2 seconds. That is brutal. It's really tough to use it that way, so a fire rate perk could be fun, but you will be losing out on some damage. However, there aren't really that many ways to perk this thing, because, I mean, it's a weapon with a few limitations, a few more limitations than we have room to deal with, so you're kind of stuck with what you got. Now, that is all I have recommended, so if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to use code Mista at your checkout. I appreciate the recommendations for the Zapp. I had no idea that this weapon was even usable, but hey, we all like to learn something new. If you guys want to become a channel member, you can do so here with the join button on the channel or the link in the description below. Follow my Twitch, it's pretty awesome, you know, trying to hit partner over there. Good times. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. And then